Hi, I'm Kathy Rankin. I'm the coach of the Junction City High School forensics team, and I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time to volunteer to judge our debates at our tournament. I think it's a wonderful experience both for the kids and our audience members tend to enjoy it also. I wanted to take a few minutes and talk to you about what exactly public forum debate is and what you can expect, and maybe help to alleviate some of your fears if you are judging for the first time. Many people who volunteer their time to judge a debate are worried because they believe that they need a great deal of debate experience in order to do this, and that is simply not true. Especially with public forum debate, because public forum debate was designed with the inexperienced judge in mind. All we ask is that you come to us with an open mind and listen to both sides. You are, in fact, the final step in the teaching process. We spend a lot of time with our students teaching them how to construct arguments and how to communicate those arguments. However, the real test is going to be how well they communicate it to somebody who is not us, and that would be you. And so you're going to tell both them and us, the coaches, how well our students are doing. This month's topic for Public Forum is Resolved the Supreme Court rightly decided that Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act violated the Constitution. Now, if you don't know what Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act is, it's okay. We all had to look it up. The Voting Rights Act was passed in 1964 by President Johnson to ensure that, or to eliminate the Jim Crow laws that kept African Americans from voting in the South. And it only applies to certain states that had certain violations. It didn't apply across the entire United States. And the Supreme Court recently decided that it did, in fact, violate the part of the Constitution that gives the states the right to determine how they're going to run things because they are not already listed in the Constitution. And so if you are affirmative on this, you would be saying that yes, that is correct. On the flip side of that, and of course it's like many other decisions, was a 5-4 decision. On the flip side, it's, well, which is more important, the rights of the individual or the rights of the states? And so that's kind of where this topic is going to hinge back and forth on, and I'm sure it will be a very, very interesting one for you to hear. So what actually happens in the debate? Well, when the students first arrive, they will flip a coin to determine who speaks first, or on which side they will debate. Unlike other forms of debate where they go in knowing they're going to debate on the pro side or debate on the con side, they actually make that strategy decision themselves. So the students should have a coin and they'll flip it, and one team will decide whether they want to speak first, be the first speaker, or whether they want to decide whether they want to speak con or pro on the topic. Then whoever loses the coin flip gets to decide the other issue, whether they're going first or second. So for instance, the team on the left wins the coin flip and they decide that they want to speak on the con. Then the team on the right gets to decide whether they, because now they're the pro by default, whether they want to speak first or second. So both teams have a choice there. After that decision is made, they'll come and they'll fill in the information on your ballot regarding which teams they are, their names, and their sides. So you don't have to do that yourself. The students are responsible for timing themselves. If they don't have a coin for the flip or a timer, you may want to note that on the ballot so that their coach understands that they're really coming to the debate unprepared. And finally, a thing to note is that each team has 3 minutes of prep time that they can use in any combination. They can, throughout the debate. So they might decide before one of their speeches they want to use 30 seconds of prep time. Or they might decide they want to use a minute and a half later on. But they can divide that 3 minutes up any way they like. And they will tell you and the other team that they are actually taking prep time. You'll want to take notes during the round. This will help you remember what's said and help keep track of what they're responding to. You'll want to write down the major arguments, and in debate, we call those the contentions. And the speeches are often given almost in an outline form, and so they label their arguments, contentions, and subpoints. And subpoints are the evidence that support the contention or the main argument. But in addition to writing down the argument for each team, you want to write down the response that the other team has to those specific arguments. What I like to do is have two different pages to do this. I have one for the pro team and one for the con team. And so when the pro team speaks, I will write their major arguments down in a column, and then when the con team gets up and starts talking about those arguments, I will write down the con's responses in a column next to that so I can keep track. And so there's 4 speeches during the round. You'd have 4 columns on your piece of paper. Sometimes even if you turn it landscape style, that really helps. And then I have a separate page for the negative. So the negative is the first speech on that one, on that page. And then I have the pro responses to the negative contentions and the negative responses to those. As the debate begins, you will actually hear a 4-minute speech from both sides. In this speech, the student will tell you why the rise of China falls into which category and support that claim with evidence and analysis. After the speech, both of those students who just spoke will begin to question each other for 3 minutes. They will be asking questions to clarify the other team's position and also to attempt to improve their own position. So there's a strategy involved in this questioning period, which we call crossfire. This process is then repeated by the second speakers on each team. In this speech, they will be further developing their arguments made in the first speech, and they'll be beginning to respond to the other team's arguments. And these 4-minute speeches are also followed up by a 3-minute crossfire in which only these 2 students will ask each other questions for clarification and to strategically improve their position. In this following the constructive part of the speeches of the debate, the students will now begin to give their summary speeches. The original 2 speakers return. They each have 2 minutes to summarize the debate and explain what the most important issues are. They will obviously have different important issues because they have different perspectives on the debate. This short speech, or these short speeches, are followed by the grand crossfire, where all 4 debaters are asking and answering questions. And now it's time for the last speeches of the debate. This is called the final focus. The second speakers return, each with 2 minutes, and they will explain to you what points they are winning and why they are winning the overall debate. They should be weighing the issues and telling you why, overall, the rise of China is either good for the United States or the rise of China is detrimental to the United States. Well, now that the debate is over, it's time for you to decide who wins. Sometimes it's really obvious who wins the debate, and you really don't have to worry about that. You don't necessarily struggle with that decision because in reality the students know it too. But it's the closer debates that we really struggle with, and I certainly understand that. When I was judging debate as a parent, I really struggled on how to decide which person won. But the truth of the matter is, after spending years and years with these students, since a winner needs to be declared, it really didn't matter what I decided as long as I was able to support it. Because what I've discovered is that no matter what decision I put down there, one team will think that I am absolutely brilliant, and the other is convinced that I wasn't listening. See, in order to determine who's actually winning, you need to ask yourself some real basic questions. First of all, ask yourself if the claims that each team makes are well supported. Did they just say it, or did they actually provide evidence and provide analysis that make it easy for you to understand how they're getting from point A to point B? And I guess that brings in the second part, my second question here. Does the evidence actually lead you to the team's stance on the resolution? Is the team actually talking about the resolution, or are they simply saying China good, China bad? Sometimes that's a deciding factor for me. If one team is actually doing the weighing and the other is just saying, no, China's bad or China's good, and the other one's going, does the actual work of the thought process for me. Finally, did the teams respond to the other team's argument? This is very important in debate. Otherwise, you just have two sets of speeches that are going parallel. When teams respond to the other team's arguments, we call that clash, and it's very important. The team needs to do more than just present their side. They need to tell you why the other side is incorrect. And they need to provide, not only do they need to tell, they can't just say, oh, well, they're all wrong, but they have to provide analysis and evidence. Otherwise, they're just going, nuh-uh, and that doesn't help you at all. Did the team provide and explain the evidence and to provide evidence and also explain as to why the other side is wrong? Just getting up and saying, oh no, that's not correct, or they're mistaken, or they're basing this on a fallacy. If they don't provide the analysis, they're expecting you to provide it, and then you're doing the debating and not them. So it's their job to provide that analysis. Okay, so after you've decided who won, it's time to complete the ballot. Let's look here at this picture of a ballot, and let's start with the green boxes. Those boxes there in the middle, they are for your comments, and a lot of times I'll fill these out during the round. While the kids are taking their prep time or their downtime, I will put in comments about the speeches that I heard. This is where you would comment about their use of evidence or their ability to deliver or how confident they sound, maybe their appearance, if you think their appearance could be stand some improvement. But that's where those general comments are made there. Once you've decided who won, at the yellow arrow there, you would put in the code of the team that won. So if Team 4A wins, you put in Team 4A in that blank, and then right after that, just to serve as a double check, you circle whether they were the arguing pro or con. And that way when we get it back in the tab room, we can just double check and make sure that you put in the code of the person you really thought